evening. Welcome to News at 10 here at TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279. My name is Grace Hamwa. Sorry, first let's take a look at the news highlights for the day. Member of Parliament for NEWSAT10 and Deputy Minister of Communication George Anda is recuperating at the 37 military hospital after his vehicle got involved in a head-on collision with an articulated truck Saturday morning on the Kaswa-Bujumbura road. George Anda was flown to Accra after emergency medical care was given at a hospital in Kaswa. Also, a major food basket in the central districts of the Ashanti region has been cut off from the rest of the country due to neglect. Roads leading to the area are in a deplorable state. Peter Kwaw Adata reports both the sick and goods are carried across a stream for access to Ijra. Pupils of Ogelege in the Pandai districts of the northern region sell firewood every morning before attending classes. This is to enable them fend for themselves. Their woes are compounded by poverty and parental neglect. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Grace Hamwa. Sorry, let's go to our first story now. And the Ministry of Interior has renewed the curfew hours on 4 towns in 2 regions of the country. They are Bimbila from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and that of Batinga and its environs from 12 midnight to 4 a.m. both in the northern region, effective November 2nd. The rest are Alavanyo and Nkonya in the Volta region from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. effective November 4, 2018. A statement signed by the Sector Minister Ambrose Derry said the renewal of the curfew hours was upon the advice of the original Security Councils and Executive Instrument. The statement further urged the chiefs, elders, opinion leaders and the youth to exercise restraint in the face of the challenges confronting them and use non-violent means to ensure peace in the areas. It also reminded the public that the ban on carrying arms, ammunition or any offensive weapons was still in force, and any person found with arms and ammunition would be arrested and prosecuted. Away from that, Member of Parliament for NEWSAT10 and Deputy Minister of Communication George Anda is recuperating at a 37 military hospital after his vehicle was involved in a head-on collision with an articulated truck earlier today. The accident occurred on the Kaswa-Bujumbura road. George Anda was flown to Accra after emergency medical care was given at a hospital in Kaswa. Information available indicates the MP was in his constituency on his usual tour on weekends when the accident happened. The minister was in the company of his police detail and 2 party functionaries who, together with the articulated truck driver, all sustained various degrees of injuries. So let's go back to our earlier story where the Ministry of Interior has renewed the curfew hours on 4 towns in 2 regions of the country. They are Bimbila from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and that of Batinga and its environs from 12 midnight to 4 a.m. both in the northern regions effective November 2. The rest are Alavanyo and Nkonya in the Volta region from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. effective November 4, 2018. A statement signed by the Sector Minister urged the elders, chiefs and opinion leaders and the youth to exercise restraint in the face of the challenges confronting them and use non-violent means to ensure peace in the areas. It also reminded the public that the ban on carrying arms, ammunition or any offensive weapons was still in force, and any person found with arms and ammunition would be arrested and prosecuted. So we're working the phone lines to be able to speak with security analyst Adam Buna, who tells us a lot more about what this curfew means to security in these communities as well as the country in its entirety. You're still watching News at 10 here, TV3, which is also live on DSTV channel 279. Adam Buna joins me now. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to your cherished viewers.
So is the resumption of the curfew the best possible way to deal with the security situations in these towns?
Well, looking at once again, good evening to your cherished viewers. Looking at the security situation, if you look at, we have, Christmas which is just on in the corner. And so the expectations are that you are going to have a lot of people moving in and out of these communities. And so the best one can do is to ensure that, peace and security continues to exist in this community. And the only way to ensure is to would have done to ensure that before any form of renewed curfew is signed, they assess the situation, risk assess it before it is signed. And so it is another way of ensuring that we don't have any disturbances in those communities. Yes.
We've had these communities put under curfew for sometimes now, and it appears the situation there is still the same. What haven't we done, and going forward, what should we be doing?
What we need to do is to dialogue. I mean, these are conflicts. These are not criminals. These are conflict situation, and every conflict situation you need to find, we need to get to know. I mean, the state needs to know what is causing the conflict. And so once those findings are out, then it helps to be able to bring the parties, feuding parties together to see how the issues can be resolved amicably. If not,
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Adam Buna is a security expert speaking to me on the resumption of curfew on some 4 towns in 2 regions in the country. You're still watching News at 10 here on TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279. We're back with more after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is News at 10 on TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279 with me, Grace Hamwa Asare. Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo, is calling for the dismissal of the Director General of Ghana Maritime Authority over allegations of conflicts of interest and misappropriation of funds. But a private legal practitioner, Martin Pebu, wants thorough investigations into his alleged misconduct. This spoke on TV3's New Day.
MP for South Day, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo, condemned the conduct of the Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, adding he must be compelled to step aside.
The maritime industry is very huge, and Ghana is doing well. Oil exploration and all that. Ships are coming here a lot. But my call is that he should step aside for the investigations to proceed.
Deputy Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party, Kamaldeen Abdul, said the board of the Maritime Authority should be allowed to probe the allegations and prefer their recommendations.
We have campaigned on the fact that good governance is something that we're going to espouse and we're seeking to push forward. Now, if at the end of the day, there are aspects of certain happenings in government that points not to the good governance that we spoke about, I think it's a worry. So clearly, I want to say that, look, let them investigate, let it come out, let's see what happens, then we can move on.
Private legal practitioner Martin Pebu, however, wants a thorough investigations by an independent body.
it would have been better that we do a third party that's not connected with the authority. That would have been far better, so that there will be that independence. Because you see, for a board that he sits with all the time and all that, you know, even there will be a perception of bias even before they start the job. So that one, perhaps we should look at it. There are so many agencies that can be asked to do this investigation.
For instance.
Exactly, so many. So that then when we get the components, when we can comment with full authority.
President of Accra Institute of Technology, Professor Clement Didonu, said the Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Kwame Owusu's comments at the news conference were reckless and irresponsible.
How many small primary schools could be built without 1 million Ghana cedis? How many small clinics or health centers could be built without 1 million Ghana cedis? Here alone, 1 million Ghana cedis were used to renovate a house, and he wants 13 air conditions and never mind electricity. Who is going to pay for electricity? Is he the one going to pay for it? For me, all in all, his press conference is an argument in reverse. It doesn't make it any good, and he's arguing against the flow of reason.
Now, Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxy Nelson Dafiamakbo, has assured Ghanaians of Parliament's commitment to passing the Right Information (RTI) bill. Deputy Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party, Kamaldeen Abdullahi, is of the opinion the bill needs fine-tuning before passage. Meanwhile, President of Accra Institute of Technology, Professor Clement Didonu, said Ghanaians have the right to information and called for the bill to be passed.
The citizens of Ghana have a right to information. We've been waiting for 20 years. Yes, of course. In today's social media age, can you imagine citizens getting the information and then throw it on social media? You give a lot of head to the politicians. So they are scared stiff. Yes. So these days, 20 years ago, we don't have social media.
So it calls for better implementation.
Oh, well, it calls for us to
pass it
pass it, and then we live with it. The citizens have a right.
The 7th parliament that I am part of, we are committed to passing this law.
Okay.
That's my point. And I'm part of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. We have considered the bill at committee level. We have brought it back to Parliament. We are at the consideration stage. We are moving steadily. And we must also not be stampeded into crafting a bad law.
That's right.
That's my duty.
Sure.
So I want to assure everybody that as Parliament, we are committed to passing this law.
There are commitments from both sides.
Okay.
Individuals may have their problems. But see, somebody talks about 22 years, 18 years, and all this thing. Look, the RTI in Sri Lanka, for instance, when Sri Lankans thought that, look, let's adopt it, it took them over 16 years. You know why? Sometimes the implementation is a problem. You can have all these fine laws sitting there, but if you don't find to, you just said that the rough edges must be looked at before we pass it. Now, if you don't look at those rough edges, you don't look at how you implement it, just churn out a law, then it's sitting there and you can do it.
Obviously, the discussion around the passage of the RTI bill is one that's not ending anytime soon. Trust TV3 to bring you all that you need to know about the RTI. Let's move away from that because a major food basket in the central districts of the Ashanti region has been cut off from the rest of the country due to neglect. Roads leading to the area are in a deplorable state. Peter Adata reports both the sick and goods are carried across a stream for access to Ejura.
These pictures prompted our attention to Okun. This Land Cruiser was reportedly rushing a woman in labor to the Ejura hospital. It took the bravery of the people to remove the woman, who was later carried on a motorbike to Ejura.
The vehicle had to be towed to Kumasi for repairs, but for the Catholic Church, we wouldn't have known what will become of us. It is as if we are not part of Ghana.
That was 1 month ago, and since then, no vehicle has ventured into Okun.
We always go through hell to get here. As for this stream, any attempt would result in complete damage. We can only sacrifice to this point.
Roads leading to the regional capital in Suta are unmotorable. Hence, Oko residents perform every activity at Ejura. Even here, years of neglect. have led to the blockage of these culverts, resulting in the stream cutting through the road, preventing easy access. For over a month and counting, commuters have to carry every luggage across the stream to catch vehicles going to Edra on Sundays and Tuesdays.
Here is what we go through at Oku. This stream has cut us off due to the blockage of the culvert. We appeal to the government to intervene.
This pregnant woman was on her way to Edra on Tuesday, October 30, 2018. She can only return to Okun after 1 week when vehicles make a return journey.
I would have to beg someone for a place to sleep during the period.
This trader from Accra was compelled to abandon her consignment after a month of waiting for transport to the city.
I can only return when the stream dries up to take my goods.
These vehicles, including the Land Cruiser and the private vehicle of the resident Reverend Father, are parked here permanently. Owners would have to wade through the stream to drive their vehicles.
So we are just reminding the government, all those who are in charge of this place, that when they check their Ghana map, they will find that there is a place called also Oku, which is under Insuta district within the Ashanti region. That the people are completely abandoned when you look at the situation.
Roads are in a deplorable state. Even tractors have difficulty plying them.
I will ensure none of my subjects partake in the next election.
Okun is a predominantly farming settlement in the Afram Plains North and the central district of the Ashanti region. The vast arable land affords inhabitants the opportunity to produce all kinds of tropical crops in large quantities. However, it was not until 1973 that an access road was constructed to the area. Residents want urgent attention to save them from preventable deaths and economic losses.
NEWSAT10 returns after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still on News at 10 on TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279. Economist Professor Cletus Dodonu is urging government to commit resources to priority areas, including education and health in next year's budget. According to him, plans by government to raise a $500 billion century bond could yield positive results if the funds are used judiciously.
With less than a month to the reading of the 2019 budget and economic statements, expectations are already high about how government intends to raise revenue and areas it is likely to expand. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has hinted government intends to raise a $50 billion century bond to help finance major infrastructure projects. If it succeeds, this will be the first and biggest bond issuance by the country. Speaking with TV3 Business, Professor Dodonu says the money should be used judiciously.
I expect the budget to lay emphasis, for instance, on this whole idea about education. Let us not deceive ourselves that education is free. Somebody is paying. Taxpayers are paying the bill. So we still need money. We have to raise revenue. If we don't have it, go get it. Let the infrastructure not be handled by short-term facilities.
The reading of the budget comes at a time over 1 million Ghanaians, according to the Center for Socioeconomic Studies, have lost their jobs since 2017. The job cuts span the industrial, banking and mining sectors, as well as the media and services sector. Professor Dodonu expects government to create an enabling environment for the private sector to function.
48% of the youth are unemployed. Find job for them. But government should not be in the business of creating jobs directly. They should create the environment. The private sector of Ghana is very tough. Even with the high cost of doing business, they are still on the road trying to acre living.
Away from the 2019 budget, the Shai Senior High Technical in the whole municipality of the Volta region is faced with inadequate infrastructure. Peter Kwao Adato reports academic and extra teaching activities are still being conducted under trees.
The Shia Senior High Technical School was in the news for lack of facilities shortly after the introduction of the free senior high school education. The former community day school was forced to convert to a boarding facility due to the increase in the number of students from different parts of the country and who could not afford to stay on their own. This block, donated by a benevolent organization at the school's formative years, was converted into boys' dormitory, leaving the former middle school block as the only classroom facility. Students were then pushed under trees and palm branch sheds for academic activities at the expense of the weather and reptiles. Cooking was done in the open for students who would have to lift desks and chairs to and from the dining hall, another facility acquired through a benevolence gesture. The Shia Residents Association stepped in to provide this pavilion to cater for some academic activities. The only visible change a year after our last visit is the roofing of the makeshift kitchen and the concreted floor of the boys' makeshift bathhouse. The Shia Senior High School has no bus. TV3 was told teachers have to hire commercial vehicles or spend money to repair buses of other schools for extra curriculum activities. The school also does not have a teaching and learning resource center. A Ghana education tender in the Ghanaian Times of October 15, 2018 listed beneficiary schools in the Volta region, including those already benefiting from similar projects, but excluded the Shia Senior High Technical. The school has all the complement of dedicated teachers pushing largely lower graded individuals to their limit in all academic pursuits.
That's how we end this edition of NEWSAT10 on TV3, which was also live on DSTV channel 279. My name is Grace Hamuasari. Many thanks for joining us. Good evening.